Hey, welcome to the Living Undeterred podcast. I have my friend, Stephan. I go back and forth. I'm just going to call him Dr. Neff from now on. That's a lot safer for me.
Oh, no.
It's great to see you. You were on the podcast, I don't know, over a year ago. We had an engaging, very educational conversation. I was I'll say early in my journey, and now I'm a little bit further down the road with this mental health, addiction, substance use journey that I'm on that seems to be humbling me every day. And you, my friend, were a mentor early in my journey, lack of a better word, whereas you had talked a lot about your personal recovery story. You've done some writing and you have a podcast as well. And it's been great to watch you, and I've learned a lot from what you're doing. So again, welcome to the show. And I don't really know where we're going to go. I kind of like the authentic and the genuine nature of this show because I don't have a script. I've been the guest on shows that are kind of scripted, and I work better when I don't have constraints. So we're just going to wing it, man.
Hey, that's how I earn my money. That is no, and I should rephrase that. I'm an anaesthetist. So as an anaesthetist, you have got a plan A when you start an anesthetic, and it never goes to plan because I'm working with human beings. So they have got their own ideas, and then I work with other human beings, which are my team, which is my surgeon and the people that are working with me, and they have got their own ideas. So whatever plan you have got, in principle, yeah, sometimes it works. Most of the time you have to adapt. And that is the success to life, isn't it? So we have got the privilege to adapt to the challenges in our life. And I guess a show is a good example for that. You never know what happens. But you can be sure that if two people are willing to engage in a conversation, and two people, especially two people like the two of us, who want to make this world a better place, then no doubt the sparks will fly. And we're here to demystify mental health problems. We are here to break the taboo. We are here to speak honestly about the things that have happened to us, and therefore be the light in the life of others. And that is really what makes me get up in the morning. That is really why I do what I do. I want to make this world a better place, and I strongly believe we can. One little action, one little impact, one book, one interview at a time.
And you and I both are in agreement that there's so many different spokes to the mental health wheel. You have alcoholism, you have drug addiction, you have depression, anxiety, gambling. There's so many different aspects to mental health. And I think when you say mental health to people, it's subjective. How would you define mental health?
Very good question. I think
that's why I asked it.
And so humble.
Very humble of me.
I think the reality is that we all have got a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings and a lot of programming happening in our brain, in our soul. And the vast majority of us have no clue about that. We are going through life like a blind man, and it is, we have no clue what is in front of us. We maybe just with a bit of tapping, you figure out the path in front of you, and that's about it. That's the same with most adults, and certainly with most children, when it comes to our feelings, our core beliefs, our traumas. And because we don't know about that, because we don't know what feelings are, what emotions are, they are riding us, and they are causing then behaviors that can either be speaking for us and bringing us in the right direction, or maybe not so much. So all these examples that you are saying, the gambling, the alcohol, the behaviors that we are not proud of, and the drugs that we are using, well, what are they? They are there to allow us to escape our reality. And the reality is that of trauma. The reality is that of uh, things that have happened to us often enough at a very young age, that left scars, so to speak, and then caused behaviors and traits, maybe behavioral traits, should I say, that are making us fall prey to our own emotions. So it is a very, very bizarre thing. Why do I know that? Because I was exactly like that. I
Mhm.
was a man who was driven by core beliefs. My God. Once, when I look back now, they are shit. They are just crap. Things like, you're a failure. You will never amount to anything. Who are you to do X, Y, and Z? Those kind of voices, they were running nonstop, and they were running virtually nonstop in my life. End of the story.
Mm.
I didn't realize that until I really went into rehab in my mid 40s, and then suddenly started to experience emotions and feelings without the possibility to numb them or try to run away from them. And it was then that my healing journey began. It was then that I started to learn more about my inner self. So if you ask then about, what is mental health, what is depression, what is anxiety, these are all consequences to a certain degree of those things that happen to us. Yes, there are some genetic predispositions that might play a bit of a role in some families, where maybe you are a sitting duck for something, for a certain way your brain is behaving.
Mhm.
So there are some links there that can be explained biologically and medically, but in reality, we are going through lives that are not very nice. There are nasty things happen to us, and we call them trauma.
Mhm.
Now, it's only in the last, 30 years that we accepted that post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD is actually a real thing. What we still haven't actually figured out is that that is not just something negative, that is actually an opportunity to grow.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
post-traumatic growth is
Yep.
something that is only right now sort of reaching a bit the surface,
Right.
whilst in reality, much of human mankind is still in the what are emotions?
Yeah.
Emotions, do you mean you're feeling hungry and you're feeling thirsty? That's what you mean, isn't emotions? That's about
I,
the level that they know.
I remember in my book talking about post traumatic growth. And it was Dr. Robert Tadashi, I think, in the 80s or 90s, maybe, that come up with that term.
Hmm.
And it was the idea that it isn't necessarily the fact that something happens and all of a sudden you find something good out of it. But the post traumatic growth idea was coined to those people that had typically had things happen but responded negatively, and then something clicked, and then they learned to start responding positive.
Hmm.
It was more for those people that previously had a very tough time. But I wanted to jump on something you had said really early in your comment, and this is this thing about thoughts. I've been so intrigued about thoughts because at points I can see where thoughts are the symptom, and there's times I can see where thoughts are the cause of
Hmm.
what we have problems with.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on thoughts, and where do they come from? Why do we have them, and where do they go?
They come, unfortunately, from experiences that have coined or that have caused those thoughts to arise. These experiences are often laid down early. So these core, I think they're core beliefs that are driving those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
At some stage, my parents were pretty clear that I'm not the cleverest kid in, and they expected, based upon the whole generations before us, that I don't amount to much. And they told me that. I'm pretty certain about that. And there was a certain kind of behavior in that my parents displayed, where you had to strive to be the perfect person. You had to be out there. There were certain norms that my parents were trying to live by, which were impossible to achieve. And there was a bitterness always around. So there was this kind of a certain successful person has to look like that. And if you don't look like that, you're a failure. And failure is bad.
Did that cause a lot of stress in your life? Or anxiety, I guess.
Anxiety, always anxiety, because
like not being able to live up to that.
Correct, but and I took that on myself. Right. So for a long time, I wrote to-do lists that even Superman on a good day would not even be able to achieve a quarter of what is on my to-do list, leave alone me. And then I only ticked off 3 out of 20 things, and I proved to myself every single day, look, you're a failure. So I was setting myself up to fail, to be a failure.
Right.
And if I think about the thoughts that are intruding my life constantly, 99.9% are negative. They are, I don't know where that shit is coming from, but it wants to tell me, no, you're not worth it. You're worthless. You're hopeless. You're a failure. That seems to be the kind of bottom line current that is going, which is such a bullshit. I guess with all these kind of things, these are things that happen to us, and it's just as much as if you're in the ocean and there's a wave coming towards you. You can get really angry about that thought or about that wave that is coming to you. That wave doesn't give a tootle. That wave just comes. So you either can get angry about the wave and shout at the wave, and it still comes, or you can play with the wave, you can surf on the wave, you can let the wave carry you and just experience it, and it will be gone in a short moment. And it's the same with these thoughts. I believe that if you accept them for what they are and say, oh, that's an interesting opinion you've got, but you know what? I don't think you're right. And end of the story. So it's
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the metaphor with the waves, because even since we've talked last, I've dove much heavier into meditation and much more into explorations of the mind. And in my, I guess, studies, for lack of a better term, or my experiences with meditation and watching podcasts and learning, I've learned to not identify so strongly with my thoughts. In other words, it's like not identifying with the wave. It's like, I'm a scuba diver. So when you talk about waves, I know what you mean. Because when you dive in the water and you come up to do your thing on the top of your head to symbol that you're okay before you go down, a lot of times there's waves coming and your mask is on and you're trying to get your regulator on. And I've learned just basically to, put the regulator on, go into the water and get all situated and just calm. Because in early diving, I would get all kind of hyper and, it creates all this anxiety. And it's that identification with the wave is so strong, because what really helps me when I get into my funk or I feel pain coming, like I had yesterday when my business partner's wife sent me a picture of my wife and my son I'd never seen before. And I just realized how beautiful she was, because a lot of my memory of my wife was towards the end of her life when it was, it was ugly. It wasn't her. And alcohol just robbed her of everything she had. And so there was just this skeleton and this figure there that I watched die. And that picture just hit me. Wow, I forgot how beautiful my wife was. And then there's obviously my son, who's probably 8 or 9 in the picture. And I could feel all these things coming, that wave of grief and sorrow and regret and guilt and shame and anger. But what I did is I closed my eyes. First of all, I cried, didn't try to stop it. Just cried like a normal bodily function, You don't try to stop your breathing. Why would you try to stop your crying?
Beautiful.
So I didn't. And as I was doing that, I closed my eyes, breathed through my nose, and I just reflected. It was a beautiful moment. And a year or 2 years ago, I don't do that. I just don't do that.
Mhm.
And I guess it's a maturation of my conscious identity and my relationship with the universe and my connection with the universe. And it's so much deeper than just, I miss my son. It's just so much deeper than that. Of course, I miss my son. I miss my wife. I miss my mom. I miss my grandparents. I miss my dog, my cat. I mean, I could play that game infinitely and just create so much sorrow in my life and pain. But there's something about not identifying, or I guess observing the thought. It's like almost like one day I was telling my sons and trying to explain to them, meditation, really how much it's helped me. And I said, imagine if you have a radio in your house and you're tuning it and you hear your neighbors arguing, having a really big fight. And this isn't your fight. This is just your neighbors arguing, but you picked up on it like a signal. And if you just turn the signal, it just goes away. And you don't have to identify with that, what you heard. In a way, it's like a thought can be, you could almost look at your thoughts in that way, is that they're coming from somewhere. You intercepted it. They're going to go away. They're going to die. But in the meantime, I don't have to hold on to them so deeply. And I think that has just liberated me from, getting captured in, in thought. And I didn't know what you think about that observation or that statement, and if meditation or something like that has ever helped you get through tough times.
Absolutely. It is. It is this intentional living that I practice nowadays, and I say practice on purpose because it is not a something that, hey, I live now intentionally without even thinking about it.
Or
No,
even a practice per se.
You have to develop a habit, and you have to learn how to live intentionally. And I'm getting better and better in that. That means that I seek out opportunities or create opportunities where I can reflect or simply tune out. In your case, you call that meditation. I call it the same. I do transcendental meditation, or more often than not, when I sit in the spa removes my phone, removes any kind of outside influences, and somehow the warmth and everything allows me to let many things drain away, and there's this calmness coming over me, and this is my time. This is my time out. Now, it doesn't need to be a spa. I can achieve the same on a micro level, going to the toilet at work, and it is just I'm creating that moment for myself, and
Would you say it's a gratitude? Would you say it's like a moment of gratitude?
Yes. More gratitude plays a role in a little bit different way. I go with that gratitude. I'm grateful for being able to control my emotions and to experience my emotions, but not putting a huge burden on them. So if I'm a bit angry, then I accept, okay, I'm a bit angry. And I ask myself, well, why are you angry? Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Oh, yeah, you're all of them. Well, no surprise that you're a bit angry. Congratulations. Or actually, I have looked after myself. I am not hungry. I am hydrated. I have sort of had a good night's sleep. And yes, there's shit happening at work, but it doesn't necessarily explain my anger. Then I just accept it as a bit of a wave that is floating over me that has no message. Most of the time, my emotions, I see them as messengers from my body that something is not right, that I maybe have, again, burned the candle on both ends, etc. But there are, and I would say I'm 90% right there. 90% of the times these are messengers, and sometimes it's just funky something happening. There's just some clouds coming together and you suddenly got thunder and lightning. That's the same what happens in my brain. From now and then there comes some emotion that washes over me and you think, where are you coming from? Oh, interesting. Okay, I know you, but nah, not today. So give me 5 minutes and then that emotion is gone. I love it. I love that freedom
Yeah,
of
I do too.
not being a slave to my emotions anymore. That is a true freedom, and for that I'm very grateful. But it took a lot of time to come to this point.
Oh
I would say
yeah.
8 years of working with different people, working through different modalities, trying this, trying that, until you come up with a life, a series of habits that
Hmm.
allow you to be in that place.
And not being sober complicates things immensely because when you're
Not being sober.
drinking, that's what I mean. Not being sober
Oh, I see.
complicates
I see.
things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when you're
I'm with
drunk,
you.
when you're drunk, it
Right.
complicates your ability to stop your mind from
Oh shit.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have now. So today's the 16th, so in about a week will be 5 years for me of
Wow.
not drinking, and it's
Wow.
funny. It's funny because I don't use the word sober for me, because for me the word sober has an implication of a struggle. And I don't
Uh,
struggle. I just don't drink. I've really been pragmatic about this journey of mine. I just choose not to drink. And if I did drink today, I wouldn't consider myself falling off the wagon. I would just say I chose to drink today. And I'm not that smart. And I've just found ways to kind of fool my brain into thinking that this isn't as hard as I want to make it.
uh,
Even though, I'm not going to lie to you, I'd love
mm,
to have a drink. I would. I'd love to have a glass of Cabernet on a nice cold night with my fire going and my dog on my
mm,
lap and watching the Netflix. I mean, I'd kill to have a drink, but I do. I just have a non-alcoholic Cabernet.
mm,
So
mm,
I do everything I did before, except what goes in my mouth. Kind of looks the same, kind of smells the same, has a little bit of the same taste, but the only difference is I've removed the alcohol part, but I'm 99% doing everything else the same. And I know a lot of AA and places like that say, well, it's a trigger. You don't want to drink
mm,
non-alcoholic beer and so forth. But you know what? Whatever works for you is the right way.
mm,
And as myself in recovery as you are, you find what works for you,
mm,
and that's what you do. And if something else works for somebody else, then you support them. You know.
mm.
But I
And
mean, I think being recovery and being sober has really helped you in regards to
hugely, hugely,
just your thinking each day and your sleeping and your diet and all that stuff all comes into play, right?
hugely, hugely. But I think the trauma doesn't go away, and
Agree with
the
that. Yeah.
emotions don't go away. So
Actually,
just
not
the
drinking, the trauma gets, you really have to deal with it, right?
exactly.
I mean, it's almost the opposite effect you would think. You would think the drinking would be easier, but well, being sober, you have to confront your demons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you know, you have to, because
That
alcohol just masks those relationships with your demons, and it lets you get, you think you're dealing with them, but you're not.
yeah. To a certain degree, alcohol plays a role. It allows you to numb the pain. So therefore, right now, your body is so in pain, and you can actually take a drink, and the pain goes away, and there's this
Right.
release of tension, and it's beautiful. But the problem is, you're just removing yourself for a short period of time, and then you wake up and you're hungover. You have hangover anxiety. The
Yeah.
problem hasn't gone away. The trauma is still the same, and you're
Yeah.
just worse off. So I found that so hard. But remember, the pain is there. So you need to deal with that. Therefore, you need to get help to actually see what really has been happening. And I say it so cautiously because it took me probably 5 years into my recovery, into my living a new life, that I realized how strong my PTSD had really been, because I had masked things.
Hmm.
Again, your body hates pain, your mind hates pain, so it tries to wrap a different belief system around it. If it can't escape it, then we make something positive out of it.
Right.
That's at least what my
Right.
brain did. And
Yeah.
so here I was, hyper vigilant, constantly head on a swivel, and that made me a good doctor. It was really hard for me to be caught out by some diagnosis or some emergency, and I became very, very good. I thrived on chaos
Hmm.
because I could deal with the chaos. Um, that gave me a purpose. It gave me a focus. I became very good in those kind of things and taught other doctors how to deal with such emergencies. So I was in control when previously, at the time of my trauma, I was not in control. So
Right.
this was just something weird there. And then only down the line, 5 years into recovery, did I suddenly, when I saw someone else falling apart of PTSD, and he told me, oh no, it's going to be fine. I looked at him, yeah, right. In my mind, I was going through his diagnosis checklist of PTSD. And the moment I went through his diagnosis, I had like this parallel happening where I went through my own life. And as I went down in him, I saw that I scored basically a full house of PTSD symptoms. And I thought,
Mm.
okay. And that was the first time that I clicked onto that.
Mm.
Then that started a new journey of discovery and of healing. But that was basically it is trauma comes in layers in your life. Your
Yeah.
healing and your post-traumatic growth comes in layers as well.
Hmm.
Because you're dealing with one piece of shit, something on your onion, the other thing,
Right.
oh, that's not nice. Let's get that layer off. And then think, now I've got a nice onion. Look at it. And you turn it
Right.
around and think, oh shit, there's more.
Right.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to me in my life. So this is an ongoing journey because there's so many things that you don't even realize that have happened and have an impact on you. And it's something that you get to unpackage. Eh, Maybe like these Russian dolls where you
Yeah. Yep.
take them out, or someone who is really, really good in wrapping presents, and you've got this big present and you take it out, and then there's a little present in there, and then
Right.
another little present in there. That's how my healing journey has been. And these are some of these packagings, they are really hard to get through. So
Oh
sometimes you
yeah.
need a bloody chainsaw to open the next parcel.
Yeah.
And that is exactly my growth. It is I'm getting better and better in some things. Others, they are still there. As a classic example, whilst I do no longer rely on alcohol whatsoever, and alcohol really doesn't play any part in my thinking, in my emotions, the sugar has taken over that role. And when I say
Mm.
sugar, it's
I
not even
gotcha.
sugar.
Yep.
It's not even sugar. I don't search out sugar fixes, but it's maybe volume of food that I'm eating. So
Yeah.
there's certainly still an emotional overeating happening.
Right.
That is now my challenge. And so often enough, the challenges change
Oh yeah.
because there's
Yep.
clearly there's some trauma and there's some things there that I have not yet dealt with. They have not
Hmm.
become as clear to me yet. So this is an ongoing journey, which I embrace. Um,
Yeah. You have to.
why? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And one good example here is I was. It's now just before Christmas when we are recording that, and 2022 has been a bitch.
Mm.
Oh, towards the end, every 6 hours there's a new challenge. There's nothing nice happening. Every 6 hours, everything changes, and literally. And I find that in the past I would have been angry as, and nowadays I just say, yep, okay, bring it on. But I,
Right.
I say bring it on without anger. I
Right.
just say, I found myself yesterday standing at work trying to be angry and disappointed, and I actually couldn't be.
Hmm.
I just said, yep, it is what it is. And by me adopting this attitude, that sort of filtered over to, or spread out to the team I was working with. And by the end, we were oh, kiss my ass. Yeah, that's fine. We are running late. So what? And yeah, others have fucked up. So what? And it was a nice feeling. So that is something that would have not happened 2, 3 years ago. I would have been
Yeah.
angry. I would have been fuming about the incompetence of others that then made me be late or made me, whatever it is. So I have grown, and I think your viewers, your listeners have the same opportunity. You guys have got the choice, the privilege of choice. You can choose right now to do something to get you into the right direction, into that growth, who you want to be. And maybe the very
Right.
first thing you need to do is to ask yourself, who do you want to be when you grow up? And not what, but who. Who is this person that you really like to become? Many of us don't take the time to ask this question. And so maybe think about it, dream about it. What would be the ideal you that you want to be in a relationship, as a
Right.
father, as a husband, as a wife, as all those kind of things? Try to get an idea, try to get a dream, and then make that dream as crystal clear as you can imagine in every single aspect. Be as specific as you possibly can. And then this dream becomes a vision. And now, if you now start to take little measurable steps towards that vision becomes a mission.
Hmm.
And before you blink, you are like Jeff, who has gone out there and who is making this world a better place. One interview at a time, one book at a time, one intervention at a time. How bloody gorgeous is that? That is
Yeah.
where we have the power to make lives better by starting with ourselves. And that is, I think, something that I have come to realize. This is really, if we can just open the eyes and the minds of the people around us by living
Yeah.
undeterred, by going out there and being the best version of ourselves, including flaws, warts and all, honest, authentic,
Yeah.
humble. That's beautiful. That's who I want to be.
Well, that's beautiful the way you phrased that whole comments, all your comments there. I want to get to your Depression Lied to Me book in a second. But I want to make an observation. I get asked a lot, if there's one thing you've learned from your mental health journey that you've been thrust into, which, like I said, 5-6 years ago, I could care less about this mental health stuff. And it probably came from the tour we did this summer, probably the one thing that stood out. I took off in the RV on this mission to share my story, to, talk to people about mental health and all the things that happen, and try to cheer people up through storytelling. And I pulled in my driveway, 95 days later, a changed man, just a completely different person. And I knew that going out, but I didn't know how. I knew I'd come back different. You can't go 95 days in an RV with your two sons and not be changed. But what changed me was every single place we went, every stop we made, some stranger would come up at a gas station or at a KOA or at a park or, an event. They'd look at the RV and they'd say, "What's living undeterred? What does that mean?" So then that gave me permission to kind of tell them my story. Like, I have this real short elevator pitch, my son, my wife, my, blah, 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 blah. That's why we do this. But what I found out, though, was very quickly, once I cracked that door of vulnerability, it gave them permission that it's okay for them to tell a perfect stranger something intimate. Now, I went to lunch today with someone I had never met before. Actually, I met him one time a week ago at a lunch, but we weren't sitting by each other. And he reached out on Facebook, said, "Hey, let's go have lunch." So I met him at lunch. And we sat down at the table. And I'm not going to tell you the intimate details, but I'm not kidding you. Within 5 minutes, he goes, "I don't know why I'm telling you this. I don't know I don't know you at all." And he was telling me very intimate things about his marriage, about his relationship with alcohol, his family. And within 5 minutes, two grown men, both 56 years old, had never met before, are sharing contents of stories that, best friends don't share after decades of being together. And so where I'm going with this whole thing is, what I learned is, I don't see people anymore. I see stories. I see, every time I go in a restaurant, I see the alcoholic. I see the person that's going to go through a divorce. I see the person that's going to get the call in a week that's going to have stage 4 cancer. I see the person that's got to put their dog down tomorrow. I see the person that just buried their dad. I see the person that, just learned how to fly a plane. I see the person who, just started their new business. I see stories. That's what I see. I don't see color. I don't see sex. I don't see rich. I don't see poor. I see stories. And that's probably what changed me on my whole journey around the United States. Is everywhere I went, there's just people like me on every street corner, in every house, in every workshop we did, every nonprofit. Not better than me, not worse than me, not even equal to me. Just people like me, just humans, And that just changed me. It really made me a much more observant person. It made me much more grateful. Did I have what I have, even though what I've been through? And that there's so many people out there that have really had unfortunate things happen to them that really have done some amazing things, and you included. And that's what's been fun about doing the podcast and stuff, is meeting people that just have some amazing stories.
Exactly. And we too are privileged because we get to know such beautiful voices that we would have otherwise never come across. And it is that keeps driving us, because we see, wow, okay, there is hope out there. There is light in the darkness out there. Mm-hmm. And there was a time when we both didn't believe that to be true. So therefore, this is so beautiful. That is the journey that I love and adore, to see the light myself, appreciate it for what it is, not taking life for granted, but actually to seek the light and create the light for others. And by doing so, that gives me a sense of purpose. That gives me the right to be here, so to speak. This gives me that puts a smile on my face. Literally, right. That is the truest and honest smile I could possibly show you, because it comes straight from that act of giving and that act of going out there and taking action. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer a victim. I am not just a survivor. I'm a thriver because of what.
Yeah, we don't want to survive, do we? We don't want to survive. I had so. We're going to get to your book. I got it pulled up here. I want to get to it. I want to get to it here in about 5 minutes. But I had the most amazing thing happen today. It started off just as a basic conversation with somebody, but left me just the most validation that what I'm doing is helping people. And sometimes it's the littlest things that somebody says or does. It's not the award you get or the huge donation you get into your nonprofit that makes you feel validated. It's the little things somebody says. So let me tell you this quick little story, then we'll get into your book. And my dog is barking, by the way. So if it's bothersome, I'll jump up and let him out. But he's an older black lab. And I always tell him I'm going into a podcast, so you can't say anything. But then every once in a while he forgets. So I was getting ready to go to lunch with this person today, I told you, and this lady who I always met, her son overdosed on fentanyl, and it's been less than a year, so she's new to this club, and she's leaned on me a lot. I talked to her really early in the process, talked to her for about an hour. She thanked me immensely, gave me this great confidence that what I was saying was helping, because I'm not a therapist, man. I've never taken a class in any of this crap. I just say from the heart. I say what helps, what I've done that's helped me, and then hopefully people can extrapolate. And so we've talked a few times. I've never met her face to face. She really looks up to me because she knows I've lost my son and my wife, and she's lost her son, and she actually lost her husband a long time ago through a heart attack, but that's been like 20-something years ago. But anyway, where I'm going with this is Christmas is really tough. The holidays are really hard. And she texted me, "Hey, can I talk to you in 10 minutes?" And I said, "Yeah." So I called her up and we talked. About a half hour into our talk, and we're both helping each other. It isn't just me providing guidance. I mean, every time I talk to you, I talk to someone else, I get helped as well. And she said something that I still it meant so much to me. And I'm going to say this. I don't mean to say this as a narcissist. I don't say this as being arrogant. I'm saying this to show you the power of being vulnerable and storytelling and the impact it can have on people. And, she's only, like I said, 6 to 8 months new to this club that we're part of. And she said she was at an event. And she had a WWJD bracelet. What would Jesus do? And she was with a friend. And her friend goes, "Are you a Jesus freak? Are you a God freak? And they were good friends, so you could get away asking that to a good friend really quickly. And she goes, No. That stands for, what would Jeff do? I'm dead serious. And she told me that, and I'm like, and I'm agnostic, so I can't. I can't say, I feel like I'm Jesus. It's like, because I'm agnostic. I'm not a believer, and
Excellent.
I'm not an atheist. I'm just agnostic, and huge difference. And
Excellent.
so I asked her. I said, I tell you, out of all my years of doing advocacy, that's probably the most powerful thing somebody has said to me. No, that doesn't mean what would Jesus do? What would Jeff do? And she said, Jeff, during my day, when I think about my son, or something happens, I see a commercial, or I go to see a Christmas tree at the mall, or I see on Facebook somebody posting things, I always ask myself, what's Jeff doing right now? Well, what would Jeff do? He's lost a son just like but he's lost his wife as well. And I thought to myself, okay, that's all I need. That's like a shot in the arm, of a drug, but a good drug. Just nobody's ever said anything that's meant that much to me. And again, this is coming from somebody that's agnostic, so I can't take any religious feeling with that. But to have somebody now that WWJ bracelet to them means, what would Jeff do? Man, I just can't stop. That just gave me more fuel, And I told Chris, I go, Chris, you know what? There's people that you're new to this journey and you're telling your story. There's people that are going to think the same thing about you that you think about me. So keep doing what you're doing. We have an impact on people, whether we know it or not. But I know you get things said to you too that just stop you in your tracks sometimes, and that was it for me. That's something I will always remember, and that person probably had to think, who the hell's this Jeff guy?
Well, exactly right. Does it matter? Does it matter if we are big influencers, small influencers?
Right.
Don't even know how to write the word influencers. We still influence the people around us by who we are, how we respond to our environment, how we respond to the traumas. And therefore, that is so important. That is so important for parents, because you guys are probably struggling with teenagers. You're struggling with your children. That's what every parent does. Yet, we keep forgetting that by us living a life, an honest life, and a life with integrity and authenticity, that is how we can have the best influence on our children without being influencers, but actually just being good human beings. Don't think that the world does not pick up on that.
Oh, man, and they're watching you.
Oh, hell yeah.
And actually, it doesn't have to be children. Everybody's watching you. I watch you. I watch your posts. I've watched your podcasts. I've yet to read your book, but I'm going to get the new book that you have out. My Steps to Sobriety. Was that your first book?
That was the first book in the kind of mental health realm.
Okay.
Previously, I've done some cookbooks and other things. And
I see your co-authored books too on your site.
Exactly. But now the reality is that My Steps to Sobriety, that was me coming out, I guess.
Yeah.
Me coming out rather than just simply talking to people. I now actually using the written word in order to tell my story. And since then, I wanted to create more impact, and specifically depression. Depression is a nasty burden. I mean, 1 in 3 of us will have depression in our lifetime, and it is normal. 90% of the population will have at some stage in their life suicidal ideas, that they want to take their life. 90%. So that is actually normal. Yet we are not talking about it. We are not.
Yeah, I wanted to pick your brain on this. Because Depression Lied to Me is your book, and it looks like you co-authored it with a number. It's a book. It's 14, not for women, or is it by women?
It's both, and I'm a girl at heart. So this is where that all came about. The original idea started 2 years ago. I wanted to write a boy book and a girl book, and we started with both. I have to say that the girls were a bit more on board and were willing to partake, whilst the boys, oh boy. That is, we didn't get very far there. The girls' book has come now to fruition, and in it we have got 14 women who tell their story of how depression lied to them, and they come from all walks of life, different colors of skin, different belief systems, different countries. And it's beautiful to see the different stories, yet the commonalities in many of their stories. The amount of trauma that was there as an underlying driver for their depression.
What,
And it
what
is
was your main
beautiful.
take? What's your main takeaways from the book? I mean, a book is like this is like a research project. You know,
Mm,
it's like a college project or something. You're doing a lot of research into it. A lot of books are written like memoirs type view. This is
mm.
research based. What was your takeaways?
That depression is a bloody liar, just as much as addiction is. It tells us lies. You are worthless. You are, why are you even here? It's the thoughts, the negative reverberations that are going on in our head. They are there, and they are going on to a strong degree in so many people, that often people who you wouldn't even believe it. They are on the outside, they are absolutely fine. I mean, how many comedians
Oh
unfortunately have
yeah,
taken their life? Okay,
Robin
yes,
Williams.
as a
Yep,
classic example.
he's
So
probably the epitome of it because he was like, I wouldn't say the most optimistic, but he was so extroverted, and he had to
absolutely.
be so torn introverted wise.
Exactly. And that is exactly the what we so often see with depression. And it's let's let's pull the crap away from it, the masks, the veils, the whatever Hollywood kind of cliches on it. All that is bullshit. Depression is as normal as you getting a cold. It will happen to you in your lifetime. So therefore, the moment we actually accept that and look out for it, then maybe this is a so much more liberating kind of fact, that we maybe seek help earlier, that we are not full of shame and guilt and all these negative secondary kind of belief systems that then come on top of, oh my God, I'm a bad mother
Do,
because I feel down and out.
do you think one of the problems, let me ask you your thoughts on this, is that, and let me paint this little picture here and then you'll see where I'm going. So let's say you're in school, you're in high school, and you have issues like every other child in this school does. You look out the window, you think about girls, you think about boys, you think about whatever
Mm,
you're thinking about, just normal stuff. And at some point along this journey, somebody says, all right, little Jeffy, you have depression. Okay, so now I've got this label imprinted in my mind. So I'm 15, someone says I have depression. The assumption is that somebody, if I have depression, then somebody doesn't. Because no one would say I have depression if everybody has depression. So the only reason I'm being told I have depression is somebody doesn't. So if somebody doesn't, then that makes me abnormal. So the fact that you're labeled depression or depressive or manic depressive or whatever term, attention deficit's another one I like to use. The implication is that somebody doesn't have it. I think it's a spectrum, and
right.
that you have depression, I have depression. Every single person watching this podcast and every person that reads your book has depression. Some are zero. It never manifests. It never reveals itself. It never lies to the host. Others, it's a 3 or 4 or 5. They occasionally get
Mm,
sad. They cry,
mm,
and then others, it's medicated. It's that
mm,
bad.
mm.
Would you think that's a fair assessment after you did this book, that you've come to the conclusion, and I think I know the answer, that we all have it? It's just some have it more or have it revealed to them differently than others.
Mm.
Or do you think
Different.
there are people that just simply don't have depression, don't have depressive moments?
That's the difference. So there are waves of emotions or waves of neurochemicals that where you're feeling down and out. You've just a cold is coming on, plus you've worked far too hard.
Mm-hmm.
You're dehydrated. Something sad is happening in your life. no surprise that reactively you are low in mood. Does that mean you have got a full-blown depressive episode as per psychiatric textbooks? No. So therefore, no. Will there be, is there a status where your body is in a serenity, where
Mm-hmm.
it really is good?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that we all have that level. Now, we unfortunately, with modern society, we want to be always in that saccharine, sweet Coca-Cola advertisement. I'm high, I'm feeling good, and
Right.
and so if you accept that as the norm that you have to be, well, guess what? No, it's like rubber bands being attached to you. You want to be all the time. Yes, I'm up there. No, 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 no. You're burning out, so you can't do that. So there's a level of serenity where your body is happy, where it's good. It's not absolutely high, it's not low. Now, just as much as there are times when unfortunately things will be not right in your
Mm-hmm.
life. That might be that as a woman you have developed an iron deficiency anemia because your
Mm-hmm.
periods were heavy or etc. And you're
Or
suddenly you're
menopause too for women,
well,
right?
touche, touche. So there are
Yeah.
certain biological things
Right.
that contribute to you being really down and out. So you
Right.
want to be down there. Now, again, this is not where your body is happy and where your mind is happy. There is like rubber bands that are sort of wanting to pull you back up. But there are certain actions that we can take to keep us up there and keep us down there. And unfortunately, we're sort of dabbling. We are not having the awareness of these emotions and those states. We are trying to be up there, and if we are not, then we see each other as failures. It's
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of rubbish. So to come back to your question, do we all have depression? I think we all have times when we are not at our best, and when we are not even serene, but when we're actually low down and out. And that is often enough a message from the body to tell you, hey man, enough is enough. You've just worked your guts out for a whole year. You haven't taken a break whatsoever, and you're simply just curling up in bed in a fetal position, and you are listless, you're tired, you have no appetite. You have so if you go through the list, then suddenly you tick many boxes of depression.
Is there a
And
generic
uh,
definition for depression that
oh,
you know
absolutely.
of?
Oh,
Do you know off the
absolutely.
top of your head? Do you know it off the top of your head at all?
No, no, not to
But
give you now
there is
specific.
like there's a
The DSM.
non-subjective generic definition.
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. The DSM-5, which
Yeah.
is a psychiatric textbook that gives you exact definitions, and you have to be of a low mood for a certain period of time. Plus, then you have to have a cluster of symptoms, of which you have to have 3 or 4 of each of the following list. And then, if you fit into those criteria, then you have got depression.
So it's
Now,
likely that the term is just haphazardly applied to people that really don't have depression,
correct,
but
correct.
they,
Oh, absolutely.
they either self-diagnose
Yep.
and they've never been clinically diagnosed, but they just say, "Well, I'm sad. I must have
Oh,
depression,"
absolutely.
but they're not.
Absolutely.
But they
And
don't have depression,
absolutely. And I think
right?
that's a really, really good point you're making there. It is, we are using words and descriptions
Yeah.
often in ways that maybe they shouldn't be used. And therefore, I always say to people who are struggling with their mood, either because they're really high or they're really low, more often low, that they should seek actually the help of their family physician, that they seek the help
Hmm.
of their GP to actually see what is going on. Basically, have a good overview of their current life, and actually take some blood tests. Well, guess what? Your iron levels are low as hell. Well, bingo. You won't feel great. You will feel low, and maybe some dark thoughts are coming over you. Let's fix that for you. So sometimes, in a few percentages of depression, of clinical depression, we can fix people like that. Bang. By taking the underlying reason away. Let's say your thyroid is completely underfunctioning. That is a good reason to feel low. Hormonal changes in the menopause. That is another example there.
Well, for men,
So,
the testosterone levels go down. for men,
Unfortunately. Exactly.
and that can
Exactly right.
cause certain things that can create or
Correct. So there's a whole range of things there that we might wish to have a look at first before we go
Mhm.
anywhere further.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you have depression? Well, it doesn't really matter so much if you somehow fit into a nice drawer, into a tick box system.
Hmm.
You're feeling not right. Well, let's get yourself checked out,
Yeah.
and then from there your GP or family physician can actually help you and can say, look, have a look here. There are these and these resources are out there. And
Yeah.
just acknowledging that someone is not right is often so helpful. It's not in your head. How often times when I say, look, this is not in your head, people say, oh God, thank you so much. I thought
Yeah.
I'm going crazy. Those kind of things, someone taking you serious and listening to you, that
Yeah.
is often such a powerful thing.
Well, I
And
think
then
every
there's
time oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no,
Every
ladies
time we
first.
see an actor or a movie star or a politician comes out and says, yeah, I battled depression or I battled alcoholism, I think that just the more we can see we're all in a big boat together, we're all
Mm,
paddling in the same direction, we're all fighting upstream against
mm,
the current of life, but we're not in a canoe, we're not by
mm,
ourselves. And I
mm,
think I think the more that we see people that we look up to, that we want to emulate, that we subscribe to having it all figured out, the successful people, and
mm,
and they come out and they say, I battle depression, or I see a therapist. I'm like, wow, you
mm,
really? Well, so my thoughts must be
mm.
okay. Because if you're having them and
Yeah.
I look up to you, then my thoughts must be not abnormal. I mean, that's got to help people, right?
Well, exactly. And suddenly someone believes you, and that gives you, like you mentioned earlier, with you being open about your struggles, someone else gets the permission to speak about their struggles, the
Right.
permission to be
I like
open
that
about
one.
their darkness, and that is
Yep.
so beautiful. So
Yep.
that is exactly my mission, to open up about that, um, and to make it easier for other people to just be themselves. And if that
Hmm.
being themselves at the moment mean that they're not so great, well, okay, let's work with that.
Well, listen, I knew this would be a fast hour.
Yeah.
Last time we went fast as well. How do people get your book or
So
books? What's the easiest way?
absolutely. Guys, go to Amazon. Out there, you've got Depression Lied to Me. Depression Lied to Me is this beautiful combination of female voices and that female storytellers that tell their side of well, they tell their story, but more importantly, they tell you about the lies that the disease or the condition depression actually told them. And it is so refreshing because so many women recognize themselves in a number of these stories.
Hmm.
So it's an amazing, amazing uh, book. It was honoring me. It was a very beautiful endeavor that I went on for 2 years to bring these stories together, and hopefully we can just let people know out there about these stories, about the different ways that these women got better. There's some that where holistic medicine played a big role, where
Hmm.
energy healing played a role, where medications played a role.
Hmm.
Um, there's a whole range of things that can help someone who is in a deep dark hole. And I think that is so important. So this is not just about different stories, but also about different transformations and healing processes.
And
So
your
therefore, there's a
website is
indeed is
mystepstosobriety.com.
absolutely, and that's where you can find it all. All my books, my children book about a little mindful
I
mouse,
saw
and about
that.
and about all kind of other projects that I'm involved in, because we can make this world a better place.
I have a 6 year old
One,
granddaughter. And is that
there
book,
you
I
go.
mean, what book is that? What age bracket is that book geared towards?
That's perfect for her. My Esme the Mindful Mouse is a little mouse that lives in our redwood forest, and it is having a beautiful time out there. And it's very vivacious and is bouncing around. And often enough, it unfortunately does silly things because
Like all
it,
mice do, right?
oh, and like all little children do.
That's
And
right.
so often,
That's right.
often her, often her friends are quite upset with her. And she is wondering, oh my God, am I a bad mouse? And in reality, no, she's not a bad mouse. She has done something silly, something bad. But the difference between being bad and having done a bad thing is a really big difference. So her friends love her to bits and show her at the end of the book that they love her.
Hmm.
It's just from now and then when she gets too vivacious and does silly things to that annoy her friends, that this is not a bad thing. So the
So I
mindfulness
can buy
in
this
it.
on Amazon right now.
You can buy that through my website. It is
Oh,
we have printed that here in New Zealand. So if you go through the website there, if you were to go
I see
to
it.
so click onto that book, onto the picture of Esme, there you get it straight away, and you're on my website, and we can sort it out for you.
I will. I'm going to get the book and I'm going to read it to my granddaughter, and I'll make a
Ah,
post. I'll make a post for you and help
you're
support you.
gorgeous,
So
Jeff.
whatever I
You're
can do to help you,
wonderful.
my friend.
Absolutely. It's an
Well, Stefan,
absolute honor.
it's been an honor and a pleasure, and I hope you and your families have an awesome holiday. And next time I have you on the show, you'll be the all-time record holder. You'll be 3 times on the show. Right now, this is 2, and it's been a fast hour. I'm off to pick up my granddaughter, have her for the
Absolutely.
weekend. So I love you like a brother,
Have a
man. Keep doing
fantastic.
what you're doing.
And the same to you. Live undeterred, and we take it from there. Bye.